Hey guys, MrPokke here, and this is gonna be my final video for everything that I've done in the early access server this time when, oh my god, I have done so many videos featuring Evernight. To be fair, it's not just Evernight, we did go through the new boss, new relics, right, the zero cycles, and now we are gonna be talking about the upcoming brand new endgame content, Anomaly Arbitration, a little bit of a first impressions, what I thought of the game itself, some things to expect, what to prepare for, 3-team endgame content, etc, etc. So without further ado, let's get into today's content. So you can see over here, this is going to be refreshing from this time of recording roughly more than 1 month, which is typically 6 weeks, right? Because 35 days is roughly 6 weeks. So I'm guessing Anomaly Arbitration would refresh just like any other endgame content within HSR. So MOC, Pure Vision, Epoch Shadows, and then I'm guessing this is going to be our Anomaly Arbitration refresh. And they also said that in 3.7, we're going to be getting another brand new endgame. I have no idea what's going on, so what I'm guessing is they're gonna try to stagger this every other week. So 1 week is MOC, 1 week is Pure Fiction, 1 week is like Epoch Shadows, then 1 week is Anomaly Arbitration, 1 week is whatever 3.7 is gonna be. Maybe version 4 is gonna have another endgame. So HSR is gonna have a lot of content. I'm guessing it's gonna happening for the next couple of months, right? So that is pretty much it for the first rotation Intellitron endgame. As you can see over here, we do have the final boss. That is gonna be Liger's aura farming over here. And before you go for the king, there are gonna be these 3 knights, which are gonna be tagging first. I do want to say I unfortunately cannot show you guys the footage of actually going ahead with Liger's himself, so that will actually have to wait for the live server, but I'll just give you guys a little bit more of my experiences playing the knight as well as playing the king itself a little bit towards the end over here, right? So generally speaking, if you can take a look into the king gambit over here, you do want to achieve the victory in 2, 4, 6 cycles respectively, which is going to be the exact same for all of the knights over here in 2, 4 cycles. This is going to be 6, which means you're going to be achieving victory for the base 0 stars, or if you do want to get a 3-star clear, then you're gonna run something like this, right? So 3-star clear, 3-star clear, 3-star clear. I just want to say the rewards for these have 0 stellar jades, right? So whether or not you get 0 stars, 3 stars, 9 stars, doesn't really matter whatsoever, because the currency is basically the ones you're gonna move from the shop, just like in Epoch Shadows, Pure Vision, like the feather thingy, but in this case, it's gonna be Anomaly Arbitration. So no stellar jades coming whatsoever. Kind of reminds me of Zenless Zone 0, like the Daily Assault, whether you get the full stars or not, doesn't really matter that much, right? Except this time, they're completely 0 stellar jades. So for this particular example, I do want to say, before you actually go ahead and tackle the king, you really want to beat the knights, because unless you beat the knights, this guy is literally unkillable. I tried before where you didn't beat the knight, the enemies have like 5 billion HP. You literally have to beat the knights in order to actually get to the king. You could try this without beating all 3 knights, but I just want to say it is straight up just impossible. So go ahead and sell the 3 different knights over here before you actually get into the king, which is going to be, in this case, Liger. So let's just go ahead and take a look at the 3 different enemies we're going to be getting over here. This is going to be Knight 1, Knight 2, and Knight 3, and very distinctively, you can see what kind of enemies and what kind of team comps you want to bring against our very first Anomaly Arbitration. Now, just like Zenless Zone 0, like in Daily Assault, you cannot use the same unit twice. So for example, if I were to take away Rabbi and I take away Kafka, I can only run this like this, right? So you cannot change this out because one unit can only appear twice, and otherwise they're gonna have a reset again. So this is a team that we actually make use of the 9-star clear. First team, you can see this is gonna be our standard puppet trio. We have fought this like a billion times way back in version 2 Panacony. It is a boss definitely designed to show for our Super team. Your Reba, your Firefly, hey, you can even run Super Himiko. You're pretty much the standard version 2 Super team. You shouldn't have any issues when dealing with the knight over here. Then for our knight number 2 is gonna be our Mimo sprite, the memory zone meme, the little doggy from Gallagher, from the girl that killed our girlfriend in game, right? So for this particular one, is definitely going to be catering towards DOT units, and I'm going to be saying why, because of these buffs over here. Like, I'll just get a little bit, right? And this is going to be Knight 3, which is going to be featuring our standard HP scaling DPS, this kind from Panacony. You could run HP scaling, you could also go ahead and run Phynon, because this time they just so happen to be appear to weak to both quantum and physical. So version 3 and Forest is definitely going to be doing very well against Knight 3. Right? So this is going to be our enemies for our first rotation, and then I'm going to take a look at their buffs over here. So their buffs are basically mechanics which makes them like more shield towards one type or another. So for the very first one, you can see enemy target initially has 2 stacks of resilient armor, and each stack reduces damage taken by 15%, and you lose 1 stack every single time their toughness reduces 0, which means if you're going to be running super break or units that deal with toughness bar extremely quickly, for example a Nexa, potentially you can deal with this enemy. So the entire mechanic is to break them as fast as possible. I'm going to be showing you guys the gameplay footage in just a little bit, but the first wave is going to be up against the 2 dinosaurs, which if you guys remember back in those days, they take drastically reduced damage from any any form of damage unless you break them. So very similar mechanic over here for Night 1. You want to break them as fast as possible, either done with Super Break, right, with Run May, Witness Break Efficiency, or you can potentially try a Nexa or any sort of a TPS that deals with Thanos bar damage exceptionally quickly. So maybe if you don't want to run Super Break, as long as you run Run May, just to improve your Witness Break Efficiency, it is going to be very, very good for you. Right? So that is going to be our Night 1. Then Night 2, and the reason why I say DOT is highly recommended is because of this buff over here, 10 Break. For every 1% HP the enemy target loses, you reduce crit damage dealt to them by 3%, which means if you bring a crit DPS, every single 1%, it will reduce their crit damage dealt. So pretty much any crit scaling DPS will just straight up deal less damage to them. Now, I'm not sure how big of this impact is going to be. I didn't find out with a crit team. I just went and hit my first try with DOT, and DOT full auto, clear, no issue whatsoever, all E0. But I'm assuming that if you're going to be running a crit DPS team, it is going to be quite questionable. For that, I'm just going to be saving it up for the live server because it's going to be coming out in the next week. So I want to save it a little bit for myself as well. But for this over here, clearly see crit DPS is probably not going to be doing too good. And memory zone meme, if you guys can remember the mechanic from back in those days, is that he summons a cage, right? He cages a unit, and then you want to deal DOT damage to those cages to break down the cage as fast as possible to release your units back into your team as soon as possible over here, right? So that's gonna be that for our DOT, or rather the DOT shield environment. If you do not want to use DOT, you could try running Super Break. I think Super Break might actually be working against this guy because you're actually weak to fire. But the thing is, if you run Super Break here, then you can't run Super Break here because unfortunately you can only use Run May once, right? So that is a little bit of a decision making. You have to decide: do you want to run Super Break on the first half, or the second half, or the third half? But unfortunately, I would say between these three, first half definitely favors Super Break way more, especially Run May. So I would say personally, I'll run Super Break on the first half, and then this one, if you have DOT, I'll run DOT. If you do not have DOT, I'll just see where else it goes from there, right? So that's gonna be it. And then for our last enemy, or our Night 3, is gonna be having inversion. So every time the enemy target is attacked, the attacker loses 2% of the max HP, non-fatal, which means perfect for casters, perfect for any of the HP scaling DPS, Mighty, whatever it's gonna be, definitely gonna be able to make use of this. So that's number 1. And number 2, all non-elite enemies will not have the HP and toughness reduced, increasing their effect rest by 100%. When all enemies are defeated, remaining targets will also be defeated. So for this one, you can clearly see it is not meant for Super Break. It is not meant for DOT, right? It's very clear. If you want to run them over here, it is straight up just impossible because you cannot reduce them, right? So because of these buffs, I would highly recommend, if you do have a HP scaling DPS in the version 3, that would be our ideal choice over here. If you do not have it, at least this is going to be a little bit more general, because these buffs are not extra, right? It's just that you don't want to run DOT or Super Break, which should be completely fine because you're definitely going to be running Super Break on the very first half, DOT on the second half, and this one can just kind of run whatever it is, right? So that will be the general playstyle for our very first rotation and Anomaly Arbitration. And between these three things, yes, you need your brand new set of relics. You cannot share them, right? It's the exact same as your Xenon Zone 0. Actually, I think Xenon Zone 0, I'm not too sure if you can share relics. Let me know what you think in the comment. I can't remember, right? But you definitely cannot share units between these three end and then once you clear these 3 knights, then you can see over here we did break the this thing is broken, and then you go ahead and go for the king in check, which makes the fight a lot more manageable. Once again, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to show any of the footage for the king itself, so wait for the live server. But for now, I kind of just want to show you guys exactly how this entire run actually looks like with Night 1, Night 2, and Night 3. Alright, so you can see over here, this is gonna be our Night 1 featuring our Super Break team. I do want to say take this with a grain of salt, because for this creator server, I actually activated my E6 just to clear my first half of the stages very quickly. So definitely not relatable, but just to see how it looks like, right? So this is gonna be going up against the double dinosaur, and because you remember the dinosaur, if you do not break the toughness bar, they basically take almost no damage whatsoever. Everything was now on full auto. Gallagher going in for the heal ultimate, slams in for another break on the guy over here, and then they are pretty much gonna die very quickly. Activating our Run May ultimate gets us the buff, and then Fugue is gonna go in for the basic, go in for the ultimate. Everything was done in full auto, and then afterwards we are gonna dealing an obscene amount of damage, instantly clearing the first wave, and then we're gonna go into wave 2 right here, right? And once again, I'm sorry this was not relatable, but we're gonna get into it on a live server just to see how Super Break will actually perform for this side one. But other than that, I don't think you should have any issues clearing within 2 cycles if you are gonna be using Super Break, because yeah, we do have a lot of leeway over here. In fact, I'm gonna probably try to show you guys a little bit, for example, trying with an Nexa, just to see how you're gonna be looking at it in a little bit, right? So other than that, the exact same puppet, the exact same things that you have seen from Memory of Chaos is the same enemy, same mechanic. The one thing that's brand new is going to be seeing the cycles used. It is just top corner over here, so they'll actually show you the progress of like the number of HP remaining for the target and number of cycles you actually use for yourself. So like I mentioned, you do want to get within 2 cycles for 3 stars, but if you cannot get 3 stars, 2 stars is going to be completely fine because once again, there's pretty much none you're actually gaining from this over here, right? So challenge is going to be completed. That is going to be our night 1, and now we're just going to jump into night 2. So this is gonna be our night 2 featuring the memory zone meme with full, okay, this one is actually full E0, so didn't get a single item, so definitely a lot more relatable. I basically let this run on full auto once again. You can see over here the first enemy is once again the enemy Manta Ray, which is gonna be designed to show against our, or rather for our DOT units, right? So this second one really prefers DOT, which is gonna make your life a lot easier. High incidence flies in with the ultimate. I'm just gonna let this combat play by itself, or generally speaking about how this is gonna be like. So other than that, they actually spawn in yet another elite over here after they die, which is honestly a little bit mongus. But other than that, most of the damage is going to be going as per usual because DOT is just going to be doing DOT things, because DOT will be super good against Manta Rays, because every single time they take an action very advanced, they're going to proc every single one of those DOT when the turn begins. So it's just perfect for any of you DOT enjoyers over here. If you're not going to be using DOT, I would say it's probably not going to be as niche, just that you're going to be dealing less crit damage against the enemies on the particular regard, right? So Hue goes in for ultimate, gets us the heal, and then at this point after the Carve ultimate, we're going to be almost done with this very first wave. Gets us to 814k, pops, and then we're just going to be dealing with one last elite left over here. Very comfortable. I would say that, for example, if you want go for a 0 cycle, right, I don't think there's too many things to be gained over here other than just a personal sense of achievement, but because the enemies, generally speaking, they are still very tough. I would say definitely a lot tougher compared to what you would see normally, but you wouldn't really feel that big of an impact, especially if you're going to be running a sustain, right? Sustain runs, I would say, as long as you're playing to the enemy mechanics, the environment mechanics, you shouldn't face that big of an issue. So that's going to be that, right? So DOT going as per usual, going up against the memory zone meme, dealing all the damage. I don't think there's too much to be said over here because we're going to be playing exactly to what the game actually wants us for over here. Hue goes in for the ultimate, heals back up, and then once he summons the cages and everything, is not going to be too bad, because I remember the memory zone meme, once you get into phase 2, you actually get a very good amount of, which is going to be the energy reset for our teammates, which is going to be super exceptional, right? So he's going to join Kafka because he used a skill recently, but because we do have DOT, Kafka should be released from the cage very quickly, right? So unfortunately, we did run out a little bit low on skill points over there, so let go of our Hyacinth ultimate, instantly breaking Kafka, and then we're just gonna get our energy restored as well. Gets us the last 8%, 7% remaining, full up attack 1%, pops this, and then he's gonna go into phase 2. But boom, free energy reset, and then all our DOT members are gonna go in. Black Swan DOT, Hyacinth DOT, Kafka DOT, Hue DOT, so everything's gonna go in. And at this second phase, it's gonna be very straightforward, right? So even back in those days, I think back in Pentagon, Memory Zone Min has been a pretty okay boss design, because the moment you break into phase 2, anyone can get the full energy reset. Doesn't have to be just DOT units. I just do wonder how much worse this is going to be, especially when his HP goes lower and lower, because the amount of crit damage you're going to be receiving is going to go higher and higher, right? So because it's 1% reduced crit damage every single time, towards the last few, you're going to find a crit damage dealing team, you're going to be dealing a lot less, right? So if you do not have DOT, that is definitely going to be a potential concern for you. And then Kafka going in for a little bit over here, where we're going to be getting the hit. I think at this point, my AI just sort of try to went all in. The DOT actually breaks all the bosses anyways, because we already, like I mentioned, DOT, so not too much of an issue. Gets us the high sentence ultimate, right? Goes back in. Black Zone is gonna go in for another big bomba. Yep, follow-up attack, one more ultimate, and that is pretty much gonna be it for our DOT clear. Taking 2 cycles, getting us the 3 cycle dispatch for, or rather 2 cycle dispatch, 3 stars for night 2, right? Then this is gonna be for our night 3. Once again, because I took this video after I finished up my Evernight 0 cycle, so at this point, my Evernight is actually gonna be E2 over here, which means you're gonna be seeing her deal way more damage than Castris, which is just a little bit mongus. So definitely take this with a pinch of salt. I am waiting for the live server to actually see how this is gonna play like for a little bit more relatable experience. So this one is really just like first impression and just see how the entire thing plays. So flies back in, goes in for the bombas, full auto. Don't really have to worry about it too much, because for this particular wave is the enemy toughness bar is not gonna die at all, and they have 100% weakness, or rather the effect rest, so it's gonna be a little bit more challenging for the super breakers, especially against the boss. But against the first wave, you can see we're still dealing toughness bar, we're still dealing the things normally, so until the boss wave is not gonna be that big of a difference, right? So activates the Castris, goes in for the dragon, and we are gonna be getting a pretty fast clear for the very first wave. And now we're gonna instantly go into wave 2. This particular wave 2 actually did not have any bosses. It's just straight up the raw elites, so just 3 elite targets. So you definitely could see a lot more value coming from like your destruction or erudition units over here, because it's going to be 3 elites, right? So slams in, because you guys see over here, we are going to be getting a little bit of a hit, right? Go as per usual. And then because we are going to be playing the mechanic, right, our charge for character is also going to be a lot higher, because we're going to be getting 2% every single time my units attack anyways. He goes in for the additional black type. Okay, the enemies here for the black type, it also shows your HP scaling DPS quite a bit because of the corrosion thing, which means you're going to be losing a little more HP. Dragon goes in for the bombast, slams back down, big booms, 3.3 million, gets rid of a one final guy, swipes this guy in, and that is gonna be it for our night 3, right? So that is pretty much all of our gameplay footage for the Anomaly Arbitration. All night stages have been cleared, and the King's power will be weakened. Like I mentioned, before you clear these 3 nights, the King itself is almost unkillable, right? So you really want to clear all the night stages first before you go into King. But once you actually clear the night stages and you want to go for the King, you can in fact just use any one you want, right? Whatever unit you want to use, you can just go for it. And you also get the additional arbitral quadrant, which means you're going to be getting a buff that you can actually select to make the team you want go against the King. So there's definitely a lot more freedom for this Liger's boss, because you can actually choose the buffs designed against Ligers. The Agile Vibe itself, you can probably see from Memory of Chaos what teams actually go against Ligers, right? Ultimate scaling DPS, so for your Castris, your Final, D-Herda, all these units are definitely going to be working. And then just pick a buff over here similar to Pure Vision as well as Epoch Shadows to go up against Ligers, and that will be the final footage. Once again, I can't show you guys, so on the live server, I'll take a look and show you guys what it's going to be. So now I'm going to do another showcase featuring 3 separate teams. This time we are going to be having a Nexa for Team 1, Face Yao for Team 2, as well as Evernight main DPS for Team 3, just to see how much of a difficulty it's going to be if we're going to use the non-shield, the non-preferred, right, the non-preferred units against the endgame bosses. I did in fact try to use Finon for Team 2 against Memory Zone Meme. This happened. Can we survive this? This is 9. Okay, I need to survive this hit. Global passive? Oh, shit. Oh, we're just gonna run it back. We're gonna run it back. There's 1. And that is 2. Hopefully I can. You can see the damage towards the end is actually like a lot lower, which is like kind of mongus. Okay, he's gonna grab Finon. Uh-oh. Okay. Yo, Iru, we can't use Finon. So yeah, just don't use Finon. We're gonna see how this is gonna be cooking with a follow-up team for Face Out, because this is technically gonna be a lot more difficult since they are gonna be taking a lot less crit damage dealt for the night. Yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So yeah, once you reset this, every single one of the stars just reset back to 0, so you have to just try again. But it will take your best efforts, right? Best attempt for each of these different things will be accounted for to eventually get a 9 star. So for example, if you got yourself an 8 star in the first time and then you had to redo the attempt that got 2 stars into 3 stars, it will still count as 9 stars, right? So each individual attempt, if you reset them, it will register as a new score completely. So you don't have to do all 3 at the same time once again, which is going to be different from Epoch Shadows, Pure Vision, as well as Memory of Chaos, right? So that's pretty much going to be it. We're just going to play this as per usual. As you can see over here, we're going to be just getting for this off, getting our buffs over here, get this, activate our ultimate from Anexa, then afterwards we're going to be again on Sunday. So I think the clear from Anexa, I don't think it's gonna be anywhere as okay. To be fair, my break, you know, our field is basically all easy as in just now. So it's probably not gonna be as comparable. Just to see how this is gonna be looking like if we're not gonna be running a break DPS issue, right? So we get this up for Anexa, get this buff from Sunday onto Anexa, apply Huan's T1 energy as well as the 40% attack buff. Okay, then Anexa can go for the boom booms, right? So this is gonna be boom booms 1. All right, boom booms 2, and then after this we do want to get off the break. All right, we get off 1 break, get this applied to the dinosaurs. Okay, now that the dinosaurs are witness broken, we can definitely deal way more damage over here. 400k, 345k is very good. I do want to restore Rame's energy as fast as possible, so we're gonna bring this back up. And then we are gonna go for this again. And you can see right before the dinosaur recovers, I can still squeeze out 1 more hit from Anexa. So that's gonna be quite nice. I'm actually gonna be going for the Hue basic. because we are potentially running out of skill point here, which is really not too ideal. Rame is gonna help us get the break from the Winner's Break efficiency. So once Tentobloom Rebloom procs, it actually delays them further. So what I'm gonna be doing is actually activating my skill just to get 100% uptime for my ultimate. Anexa is gonna go ahead and do one basic into a follow-up skill. This dinosaur is gonna collapse, gets delayed. Very nice. And then Sunday is gonna pull myself back up, getting rid of the dinosaur within one rotation. Right now, I do want to stress, if this dinosaur recovers and you cannot kill him by his first winner break, it's gonna take very, very long. So ideally that never happens. So luckily for us, we are gonna be able to get a kill over here. So that's gonna be one skill, and the second wave is gonna bounce into the puppets immediately, activating the Ranmei Light Cone, getting us. This is gonna be very, very nice. Okay, when I actually go for the skill over here, and I do want to activate Ranmei's ultimate during her turn so that we can maximize the buff durations. Unfortunately, my Sunday is like a little bit slower compared to the DOT guys, so it is what it is. We're just gonna go for the guy. Okay, let's just break the guy immediately. That's really, really nice. So now that that's gonna happen, we're gonna activate Sunday's ultimate, get us the additional Sacredo stack, and then we're just gonna continuously deal damage to the entire team. Right, so that's gonna be 1. That's gonna be 2, break the second guy, bring up a Nexa again. I want to hit the guy that's already weakness broken so we do a little bit more damage. So that's gonna be 3. That's gonna be 4. See if we can get off the break on this guy. Yes, we do get the break because of Ranmei's additional weakness break efficiency. That's very good. Delays all of them down. So that's gonna be 1 cycle used. When we can go for the basic, Ranmei will go for the... Okay, we're not gonna go for the skill over here just to get our buff uptime. We are going to activate our Huai ultimate to increase our energy regeneration as well as the attack buff. Then this will be a double skill. Skill number 1, skill number 2. So by Sunday's next action, we definitely are going to be breaking this into phase 2, right? So this will be next, and then 4%. Very, very good. So everything is going to be weakness broken. He's going to go for this first. Okay, that's fine. After he goes for 1 hit, let's try to see if we can prevent the sleep from occurring. Not too big of an issue because we do have Huan Huan to cleanse our sleep anyways. So I don't think it's going to be that bad, right? So this is going to increase. We did get an interrupt off, which is quite nice. Huan Huan, I am pretty sure we are going to be going for the skill here just to make sure that our buff is going to be fully covered. Rame can go for the basic and then activate our ultimate over here. That's going to be 2 skill points. And next Sunday, Anexa is going to go for the Quadra skill. So that is going to be very, very nice. So that's going to be 1. And then that's going to be 2. Sunday is going to bring ourselves back up. And then we do see 1 last action from Anexa and Sunday, which would get us the clear within 2 cycles after here, right? So dealing 300k, 33% HP remaining. I think this should be quite okay. Get this down. Huan Huan goes for the basic. Ranmei goes for the basic. And then afterwards, after Anexa goes for the skill. And then Sunday is going to go for the skill again. Okay, we don't even need a Sunday skill. And that is going to be our 2-cycle dispatch. Roughly right on the dot featuring Anexa instead of running the super break. Once again, because this result was definitely skewed because our Ranmei has a lot of idleness. So please take this with a grain of salt. Everybody was easier other than the Ranmei. So that's pretty much going to be it for our waypoint. You can see the moment you clear one of the stage, everything else is going to be as constant. So it really just depends if you want to reset them one by one, right? So the moment you do them and you want to change, then you have to redo again. But because it's on a completely separate wave, you wouldn't reset everything, right? So if this, for example, got a 2-star, if you want to do for a 3-star attempt and keep these 2, as long as you don't use the same units from these other 2 teams, it's going to be completely fine. So now we're going to go into the facial run over here. We are going to be running the Avenging Sustain against this Memory Zone. Also, I did, this facial is not relatable. It's going to be an E2 facial. Don't worry about it too much, just to see how much of a difficulty this is going to be for us, right? We are going to be getting Avenging, which means that we are going to be getting quite a bit of shields, especially from all the AoE. So I don't think sustain is going to be that big of a concern for us. Yep, we're getting a lot of energy from the stack generation. Cypher is going to go for the basic. Bobbin, I do need to get my skill up first. Facial can go for the skill just to get this up as fast as possible. Then once Adventuring goes for the basic, we are going to instantly let go of our Robin ultimate. Rise back up. Get ourselves the Avenging ultimate for the main Manta raid. And then we can let go of Facial. Right now we can let go of Facial. Don't want to waste the stacks. Let's see if this is going to be good. Okay, damage wise, 422k. Nothing too crazy. Let me see if this is going to be enough to instantly bring bro down, because I want to kill this as fast as I can. Cypher is going to be helping us to deal true damage. So I just want to let go of my full burst combo right now. Okay, he summons 2 more of the fishes, which is going to be a little bit annoying. We are gonna go for the Saki. Double defense down. Then there's gonna be skill 1, skill 2, skill 3, skill 4. We do get ourselves 6 out of 6 stacks. In fact, I kind of believe that he's almost dead here. But because he's gonna be... Okay, we are gonna low-key waste an ultimate here on this guy. But you can see the damage is a lot lower because he has dev stuns. So I don't even think it's gonna be an overkill. 79,000 damage. Oh my god, he didn't even die. Okay, he actually died from that, but oh, goddamn. Okay, so we're gonna be getting rid of those, and then we do have one more of the reinforcement here, I believe. This is gonna do the follow-up attack. Okay, Fish is gonna swipe us again. I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal for us. Kind of want to save Aventurine for side 2 if I can, so we're just gonna go for the skill, and then Aventurine will basic. Right, Aventurine will basic. We'll go for the skill into a skill. Aventurine basics. Okay. Action very advanced. We're just gonna get rid of this wave over here because this is gonna be a full HP. She still has devs done, but by the time her turn begins, I think this fish should be more or less dead here, right? Okay, that's 1 pop. We spawn in the next Manta, right? That's 2 pop. Okay, now we can, because we did see the fact that this guy is gonna spawn in regardless over here. It's gonna take a little bit. Apply this for bro. Gets off another follow-up. Our shield is still looking very healthy. The fish there actually dies, so that's gonna be very good for us. Okay, he's gonna hit us with the normal AoE, which is not gonna be a concern whatsoever. Barbin Ultimate is actually gonna be coming back up, which is very nice. Cypher, I'm just gonna chill here. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna let go of the ultimate, because this ultimate will kill the fish. And then we can just generate our next ultimate regardless anyways. So this is gonna be quite nice. Goes for the basic attack. Barbin, we are just gonna go for the basic here as well. And immediately after Face Out goes and Aventurine, then we can let go of another Barbin ultimate. Okay, he's gonna summon his fishes, which is not gonna be that big of a deal because we're gonna be getting a lot of shield from Aventurine anyways. So this is gonna be 8 out of 7. Flies this back in for 4,700. This is gonna be 6 out of 7. That's fine. Reveal and Destruction is gonna be dispelled. Goes in for the skill. Aventurine goes in for the basic. Gets ourselves the Bourbon Action very advanced. Okay, we are at 12 out of 12 stacks. Arise ourselves back up. I do want to activate my face out stack ultimate immediately just to see how much damage it's gonna be doing. Bop, 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 bop. Okay, unfortunately, it is not going to be doing too crazy. Cypher goes in for the basic. Face out goes in for the skill. He's going to action very advanced over here. And we'll see if this ultimate can kill. Alright, we'll see if the ultimate can kill. I don't think it is. Unfortunately, I don't think it is. Okay, yep, unfortunately, it is not going to kill. At this point, I'm pretty sure I saved my Aventurine ultimate for the next wave. Cypher's true damage actually can help us a lot against this guy, but I see that he's almost dead. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna end it off over here. Yep, I'm pretty sure Cypher will kill, then we can save up face out stacks over here. Just in case we get a little bit too much damage down and our shield loses or whatever. Don't really want to deal with all that. So we're gonna go in for the ultimate. Then we're gonna go in. We're gonna wait for Cypher to apply her defense down debuff so that we can get a little bit more damage. Vulnerability is going to be applied. Cypher getting very low here. We're going to go for the suck and the weaken, which is quite good. I do need to, personally, I am going to be going for the Aventurine shield because you can see over here, Cypher's health is really not looking too good. Damage is going to be very high for the first burst, but my second burst is going to be a lot lower because of the MOC debuff, or rather the AA debuff. You can see the damage is a lot lower. Weakness breaks his ass. It's going to be quite nice. We are going to go for our skill here just to make sure that Cypher doesn't goddamn die. Okay, Cypher goes in for this. Can we get one ultimate off? Okay, if we can get an ultimate, that would be very nice. 12%, not quite enough, unfortunately. Robin goes in for the basic. Cypher goes for the follow-up. Gain 3 sets of sunset. I don't think that is a problem for us, right? Actually, I can't remember if me breaking here is gonna save Bobbin. I actually don't think we do. Okay, 8%. Okay, we actually do not save Bobbin, unfortunately. Let's just go for this thing here. I kind of want to see if we can just one-shot, bro. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Damn. Okay, this thing is gonna come back. He's gonna give us 100% action very advanced first. All right, we're gonna 100% action value. Okay, a good thing about Memory Zone meme is that before he actually transforms, we can in fact use 100% action value advance or even like DDD to bring our entire team forward. So we're gonna be able to save our energy here. Like for example, we're gonna get off a free Adventuring ultimate, and I think we can get off one more phase out ultimate here, which is gonna be very, very nice for us. So just getting as much value as possible. Adventuring goes in for the basic, activates our ultimate. Cypher is definitely gonna go for the base here because we can conserve a little bit more skill points. Okay. Okay, goes for the basic. And then once Fei Xiao lets this go over here, he's gonna give us and the entire team a free ultimate again. Okay, flies back out. Team-wide ultimate regeneration. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for Fei Xiao, huh? Okay, that's really, really unfortunate. So we're just gonna get hit here. Takes Adventuring, which honestly is gonna be completely fine. Cypher, let's go of an ultimate so we can deal with the thing at the side very, very quickly. Okay, very good. We're gonna suck because this is gonna do another AoE, and because Fei Xiao is a follow-up attack, it's gonna consider as 2 different hits. And then once Meow Meow goes in for the follow-up, Meow Meow goes in for the follow-up, we get ourselves the thingy here. Okay, very good. Let's go of one more follow-up attack from Cypher. We Winners Break Memory Zone meme, and then Adventuring's one. Come on. All right, let's wrap it up, right? So this is gonna be just barely 2 cycles, right? Just barely 2 cycles, getting us another alternative 3-star clear without using DOT, featuring Fei Xiao follow-up team on Memory Zone. I would say that, you know, without the E2 Fei Xiao, I think this would have been very, very challenging, right? So just take that into consideration. That is gonna be our next 2 cycle for night number 2. And finally, going into night number 3, we are gonna be taking a look at our Evernight main DPS. Now, I would say this is probably not gonna differ too much from our Casualist team because our Evernight is completely super jacked up because of the E2. So I think we're just gonna see the potential of what this E2 Evernight is gonna be doing here without Casualist, right? So flies this back in for the bombas. Very, very good. You can see we're not gonna be dealing any forms of okay, yep, we are not gonna be dealing too big of a damage for now because we haven't gotten the buffs yet. Okay, now that we do have Evernight's buff, we activate Hyacinth's ultimate, activates Evernight's ultimate, which means we are going to be getting our Teep ultimate, and then we're going to apply our E1 Teep's damage zone here as well. Alright, so this goes in. Let's get our Teep ultimate right now. Alright, might have wasted a DDD value on Evernight, but I just want to see the damage at this point, right? So this goes in for the skill. This is going to give us 74 stacks combined total with our skill is going to be 81 at E2. 4.5 million. And it didn't kill the damn thing, which is god damn, yeah, we actually do need to kill the elite. So now good thing for us is because of this way that this thing functions, all of the mobs here only dies when this thing dies. So you could perhaps even consider running the Herda for this specific mode over here. But for this showcase, I'm just gonna go ahead with the you know, the Evernight showcase. But I think the Herda is probably gonna be doing very, very well here as well, because it's almost like a pseudo average vision stage. It's almost like a pure vision stage here as well. So we're gonna get ourselves a Teep follow-up, and then we're gonna be getting 100% stack from Mimi here. Brings up our Evernight, clears the wave just nice as well. Goes with a skill for 66 stacks. This is gonna transform to 73 because of our E2. 3.1 million, absolutely absurd damage. Let's get off a DDD. Gives us the action value advance. We're gonna go for the skill into the ultimate instantly, activating our Eagle 4-piece. Getting a little bit more action value once again. Hyacinth can go for the skill again because we should have a lot of skill points remaining. That's gonna be fine. 900,000, very exceptional. Evernight slams in for the bombas. 2.3 million instantly, get rid of everyone. Almost everyone's gonna be there. I think this will be 100%. There we go. Brings up for Evernight. This is almost a 0 cycle to be completely fair, right? Gets this back in. Booms 3200, and that is going to be game for our Evernight main DPS for Night Treat, right? So that is gonna be our second showcase, or rather the next alternative versions if you do not want to use the previous teams that I just used, which is gonna be the show environments. So that is gonna be like my first ever impressions, just to see how Anomaly Arbitration is gonna be like. For this particular endgame, I would say it is definitely a lot more different compared to any of the endgames we've seen so far. Because like, for example, MrPokke Shadows is definitely gonna be chilling for toughness breaking, alright, or may use the mechanics to break the toughness bar as fast as possible. And then Pure Vision is mainly gonna be focused on your erudition units, clearing the mobs. And then Memory of Chaos is based on a shield buff. For this particular endgame, I would say because you do need 3 different teams, and each of these teams the enemies they are going to be facing up against, it is like very clear cut to show which teams are going to work against which enemies, right? So for example, this guy, he's going to be immune to the toughness breaking as well as a fair rest, HP reduction. This guy, you're going to be dealing less crit damage. So for example, if you're going to be losing 99% HP, you're going to be dealing like what, 200 and almost 300% less crit damage, which is absolutely absurd. And then this guy is just going to be reducing your damage taken by 15% each stack every single time. So against these 3 bosses, you definitely need to have a variety of different teams. So for me as a consumer, frankly speaking, I'm just a little bit more concerned how they're gonna balance this going forward, because this is gonna be the first iteration of Anomaly Arbitration. But you can see over here, the environments are pretty much like Memory of Chaos times 3. Except you have 3 different ways to go about, or rather 3 different enemies to concern with, which means you definitely need 3 different teams, and each team has a very distinct role and function against each enemy. So for example, going to version 4, as they eventually open up even more team comps, even more archetypes beyond just HP scaling, beyond super rate, all that kind of stuff, I do want to see a wider diversity for the amount of units that players can actually use against these 3 enemies, because not only are the enemies themselves, they are definitely going to be shield against certain archetypes. So for example, dinosaur boss are really going to be very good for super break, right? The puppet boss, very good for super break. And on top of these bosses being ideal for super break, if you do have super break, it will make your life a lot easier, right? So it's a little bit like a double-edged sword. If you have the answers to the problem, so for example, if you have super break, which I believe this is one of the highest owner team comps that the whole world has, because everybody pull for Rame, everybody has HMC, or if you want to use HMC, all that kind of stuff, few, right? I would say that if you have it, it will be very manageable, right? Very manageable, because they made it even easier for players that already own the solution to the problems. If you do not have it, right? If you do not have the solution and you actually have to use an alternative team. So for example, if you do not have a DOT team for Night 2, because DOT is honestly a more niche team compared to Super Break, then you are definitely going to be able to feel the struggle, because any crit DPS, you would be losing your crit damage dealt by 3% for every 1% HP loses. So at 50%, you're going to be dealing 150% less crit damage. So if you do not have the answers to these questions, I'm a little bit concerned as to what are the alternatives for players to actually target these endgame, because to be fair, you don't really care about the 3 stars anyways, because the stars over here, they're completely meaningless. There's no strategies. It is really just for like a sense of achievement as to whether or not you actually want to get these for yourself, right? And eventually you go up against the king when you can eventually go up against the king, right? So purely just for personal satisfaction. But it does feel bad that because the environments are definitely going to be very shield, and if you do not have these comps, it is going to feel very bad, right? Then going into version 4 or maybe even version 5, I hope to see way more different team comps, way more variety of options that players can have going into a 3-team endgame content, because it is already 3 different enemies with a very designed, right? A boss is very designed for the different teams. So for example, can you imagine if you get Pollux over here, and after you get Pollux, you get like the HP shielding buffs for Pollux, which is going to be for casuals. So if you just do not have like casuals and you skip out on casuals, it is going to be incredibly difficult to go up against these kind of content in the future, right? So I just wish that for this endgame content, I hope they balance it around diversity, because we already have a diversity, right? I always up for 3-team endgame content in HSR, because it brings about more demand to use your old units. But if you cannot use these old units because the buffs are gonna be very restrictive, then I think it's gonna be just making the shield problems way worse, which means you're going to be a lot more restrictive and tunnel visioned into the teams that you want for these different archetypes, right? So hopefully we get more different buffs. So maybe, for example, getting the different buffs, your option you can choose for these 3 endgame content bosses, I think that would be the best way to go about it, right? So one buff over here, one buff over here, one over here, just like how you're going to be doing it for the king stage. I think that is going to be how I think Anomaly Arbitration will be a lot more friendly for the general population that want to try this. But make no mistakes, this endgame content itself is definitely gonna be the hardest endgame content HSR, because it's so restrictive. Because HSR is ultimately a team building game, right? There are very little things you can actually do in the combat itself. It is all about team building, and if you do not have the teams, it's kind of like a one it is what it is situation, right? So definitely be mentally prepared that you're probably not going to be getting 9 stars, and even if you do not get 9 stars, it's fine. You're losing grand total of 0 strategies. It's purely just for your own satisfaction. I think generally speaking, Anomaly Arbitration is definitely doable, even if you do not have the favorable matchup, right? What I mean by favorable is, as you guys seen just now, this is technically possible, but it is also gonna be having a much higher requirement for vertical investments, right? If you do not want the vertical investments where it's gonna be the non-straight up units, then having the respective units that are against the right enemies will make this a lot easier. So for example, the same amount of vertical investment going into, let's just say, DOT is gonna be a lot lower compared to the vertical investment into, for example, this face cell follow-up attack, because this team is built for DOT, right? You're going against the target. And then same thing for Anexa. To be fair, Anexa is still quite good, especially if you do have a run main, so we're still clearing 2 cycles. But if you do have a proper break team, you're gonna be having a lot easier. So generally speaking, you can still do this without the shield units, but you're definitely gonna need more investments for these non-shield units. So yep, with that, I've pretty much come to the end of my early impressions, right? First impressions, early access review for our brand new upcoming Anomaly Arbitration. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. When this game actually comes out, I'm gonna be trying out with a lot of different team comps on the live server. I'm just gonna be saving it for when it actually releases, so I can just test around myself, because I think this game mode has a lot of potential. Just depends on how they want to structure it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Well, today is gonna be 3. Join Twitch, join YouTube, join Discord, join to the channel page for all of our enemy. Use code for 10 minutes game subs. All the best of the moves. See you guys next time. Okay.